gamers, I'm Jason.
I'm Julie.
And today on Dice & Dragons, we are going to be reviewing the latest expansion for The Lord of the Rings, Journeys in Middle-earth, published by Fantasy Flight Games and designed by Grace Holdinghaus and Philip D. Henry. Now I'm going to toss it over to Julie, who will tell you more about the game itself.
So, like the base game, it is a cooperative game. What do you call it? Adventure? Dungeon crawl?
I think it's more of an adventure game than anything else. Maybe the earlier game felt a little bit more on the dungeon crawl side, but this expansion, adventure game.
So it is for ages 14 and above, 1 to 5 players, plays in minimum 60 minutes. I'd say the box says 60 plus. It really depends on the mission, but it's at least an hour.
Yeah. Definitely not going to get many plays under an hour. You may be able to squeak something out at 45 minutes, at least in this expansion, because there's an interesting mission when you transition between realms, which we'll talk about when we get to the review. So just to give you a little bit of background as to the story in this expansion, for Spreading War, you'll be traveling to the realms of Gondor and Rohan, who are currently under threat from mercenaries, and your duty is going to be to protect both realms, working for the House of the Steward, Denethor, working with Minas Tirith, the realm of Gondor, and of course, working with King Theoden in the realm of Rohan. You have some characters inspired by those locations, as well as some famous characters from the Lord of the Rings, such as Boromir, that do make their appearance in this expansion. So you will have to uncover what's going on with the mercenaries in order to defend the world of man from the rising shadow. So Fantasy Flight Games always said that they envision Journeys in Middle-earth as a trilogy, and this expansion is really like the capping off of the trilogy as you finally move into that time period of the War of the Ring. Well, we're butting up close to it. I mean, Boromir is active. So on that note, Julie, what time is it?
Grab our drinks.
Grab our best friend.
Okay, take it to the table one more time.
One more time. We're in the middle of a mission here, so let's wrap it up, and then we'll come back with our thoughts of this current mission and the expansion itself. Now I'm going to take a quick look at the components for the Lord of the Rings, Journeys in Middle-earth, the Spreading War expansion. Now you may be wondering where all of the new map tiles are. Don't worry, we're going to take a look at them. I've got this one here just as a reminder to myself and to show you that we did get some new ones. So we're going to start first of all with the new rule book. So this does have some new details in it. You're going to see the new expansion icon, overview as to what's going on, the component list. You then have the new rules, so we've got Bane cards, changing form, some new terrain types, a component action, which is something that's new. We have the rules for difficult ground that was included in the previous expansion. And then we also have the new terrain fountains. We've got fortified terrain, ponds, and also tier 4 equipment. So that's going to be some stuff to get excited about. We also have some new icons, and all of that stuff is detailed here. And you also get a nice updated quick reference guide for the game. Now we're going to take a look at the characters, their miniatures, and the enemy miniatures. And then we'll take a look at some of the other cards before we get to the tiles. So we've got Beorn, who is Beorning, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it. Before you interact, if there are no nearby heroes, you may scout one card. Pretty cool. He also can turn into the Great Bear, which I accidentally had at the back here. So we'll take a look at his ability as the Great Bear. Before you interact, as an additional cost, you must choose and discard one prepared skill. So you're very limited as to what you can do as the Great Bear, but I mean, you're really going to be fighting as him and not necessarily interacting with things across the map. So then we have Dwalin. After you interact, you may spend 1 inspiration to prepare 1 card from your discard pile. So that's pretty cool. We've got Freya Hill, the human, and she looks like a shield maiden of Rohan. So during setup, you may equip Snowbright as a mount instead of any other mount. Then you may equip one-handed and two-handed and 1 two-handed card. So it looks like you can have a one-handed and a two-handed weapon, so that's pretty cool. So we've got Renarian, Scout 2. If you prepare a card with a success, you get to discard 1 face-down damage and 1 face-down or a face-down fear. If you prepare a card with the leaf for the inspiration, you may gain 1 inspiration. We have Boromir. So he's always kind of like last to get added, but I'm happy to have him in the game. He's a very cool and interesting character. So when you perform a last stand test, you may suffer 1 damage or fear and add 1 success to that test. As we hate doing last stands, I don't know how often Boromir is going to get played, unfortunately. Once again, he may be left kind of as the last character, or just kind of off the cool list. He's not really invited to the parties. So we got Callum and Took. After you prepare an aid, food, or valor skill, you or a nearby hero may gain 1 inspiration, but you can only equip 1 hand. But still, some pretty cool stuff that we've got here. So let's take a look at the miniatures. So we've got Dwalin, and unfortunately, as I get it closer to the camera, we lose focus. It's all set down here, so I'll have to just showcase them to you a little bit lower. So there we got Dwalin. We've got Beorn. And while the miniatures are nice, they're not nearly as detailed as what you see in Legends of the Dark. Here we've got the Great Bear. Renarian, who I have a feeling is going to be Julie's character once we get this campaign on the way. We've got Freyhild over here. She looks pretty cool. I kind of want to play her. We've got Callum and Took. I'm thinking for our first run through of this campaign, she's going to get left off to the side. And then lastly, we've got Boromir, once again at the end of the line. And I'm not sure which one of us is going to want to play him just due to his ability. So let's take a look at the enemy miniatures. We have the giant Oliphant, who looks absolutely fantastic, and I really love the look that they got for the miniature. We've got the siege towers. Have you seen the films? Both of these look exactly like you would imagine them to, but Tolkien did a great job of describing all of these in his novels. Here we've got one of the creatures that the Nazgul rides, and I'm completely drawing a blank as to what they're called. We have a Goblin Warg Rider, and these guys are nasty. Now, I still haven't heard back from FFG yet what's going to happen with my minis. If you saw the unboxing, still trying to figure out how to get that resolved. Here we've got a new orc with a warhammer, so very scary looking dude. And we have some vile humans joining the mix, as we have the Easterlings for the first time entering the game. Now, in the piles of cards we got here, we have just some that we may have seen before, such as Child of Lahun, and then there's like the Gift of Men, I believe. So these are all the cards for your heroes, all based on their race and then a little bit of their background. So we're not going to go through all these. I mean, we'd be down here for a while, taking a look at all the cards in detail, because there are a lot. I think there's over 200 something cards in the game. Here we've got all the skill cards. Of course, the green skills are your starting ones, so for all the different roles that are available in the game. Then you have your upgraded skills that you're going to get as you play through the game and level up your character. That's how you can get more successes into your deck, and also some cool skills. I'm a huge fan of Sprint. Anytime I can get some Sprint cards, that's what I'm going to be taking. Also, before I forget, we've got just some of the new tokens. So difficult terrain, the fortified space. This is the new fence token, which has 2 different sides to it. Plug and see these more on the battle map. And then the chest terrain type. Now, we talked a little bit about some of the new cards we have. So here we've got the Bane cards. There's also this captured and the other side, the escape card. So that will explain how that works. Now, these Bane cards will do nasty things to you that will persist. For example, when you're terrified, you must remove 1 success produced during a test. So that's when you attack. At the end of your turn, you may discard a prepared skill in order to get rid of the effect. We've got Despondent. You cannot spend inspiration during the action phase. A nearby hero may discard 2 inspiration to get rid of it. So these Banes really can hinder you. And as you can see, there's only specific situations that you can get rid of them. Now, here we've just got some of the new titles and reference cards. So I got the titles here. So we've got the Friend of Gondor and Friend of Rohan. Looks really cool. You have to be a human. You get the new Beast Singer. So that is a song title. Pretty cool stuff. And then we have just the reference cards here for the terrain, which always has that green symbol card back. So we'll just put this back face down now. We'll take a look at what we've got for items, a whole lot of new items. All these items we got here are some of all your weapons, everything that goes in a hand. So like the claws, for example. You got new knives. Also, we get the tier 4 weapons, so shooting star. Now, for those that have been playing the game for a while, knows you don't have enough swords necessarily to start all your characters with swords, depending on who you're picking. So getting some stuff is pretty cool. Being able to have more options with that. And fortunately, you only do get one tier 4 sword. So keep that in mind when you're planning out your party. And we got the World's Burden, tier 4 scout, 2, 4 hits, 3 hits stun, 3 hits cleave smite. I gotta say, I still think Bearivore might be my favorite character to play in this game, especially with some of those really, really powerful staffs. So we got a whole set of new armor and tier 4 armor for all the different characters. But you'll notice, once again, only one tier 4 Storm Shroud. So you'll really want to keep that in mind as you're building your party, what the equipment is, what you can upgrade to, and how best to tackle your journeys in Middle-earth. Now, here are the new mounts. So some of them even have, you can actually convert successes to hits. So that's pretty cool. It tells you how you can use them. So definitely looking forward to trying them out. Mounts is something that was always a important part of the Lord of the Rings in some cases, but we haven't had them included in this game. And here are some new items that you can pick up along the way. So provisions, that can go up to level 3. So we're really looking at just level 3 stuff for items, no level 4 items. Well, we're almost done. We need to just take a look at the tiles. So we're going to go through, here we talked about it. We have the fountain and the pond, the new terrain. Here we've got our new tiles. So it definitely feels like the lands of Rohan and Gondor. When you flip them over, you do get some places that continue being forest, but you can see you've got plenty of things to explore. Almost looks like we're going through a town and not necessarily through like caves or mines this time. I'll take a look some more just to give you an idea as to what all the locations are going to be like. Don't really want to showcase them all in detail. Not that it's going to have any spoilers. The maps are randomly, I said raps because of just map and rap. The maps are randomly generated by the app. So it has 2 tiles, and there you have it. We've now taken a look at all of the different components in the Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth, the Spreading War. Now keep it right here, as Julie and I will be coming back at you with our review of this expansion. So the Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth, our most played game, so you can guess where this is going to rank a little bit in terms of our final scores. We do love this game, but the Spreading War expansion, the latest, what did you think of this so far, Julie? We haven't quite completed it. We're probably about 50% of the way through, so definitely enough to give our thoughts.
Well, I'm surprised we already saw a war elephant. I mean, fairly early on.
Yeah, the monstrous Oliphant, that was quite terrifying.
This is classic Lord of the Rings. I mean, it's more of this what we love about the game. I would say actually there's a little bit less fighting, and so far I haven't found we haven't faced some of the stuff that we hadn't liked about stuff that just won't die and keeps coming back, which I'm appreciating. It also feels like we level up maybe a little bit quicker in this game.
Well, you can talk about how they've made some changes to the characters that have actually sort of facilitated that. We are also aggressively exploring the maps, and one of the things that we learned to do after our first plays, but having Dwellin as a lore keeper is really making a big difference with his current skill.
Well, yeah, the skill basically means every time we finish an adventure, we get an extra 2 lore, which does add up quickly. But I do find also that we were fairly strong to start off with.
I also think what's helping is when you travel between the realms of Rohan and Gondor, there is a mini mission, and actually can be done in about 20 to 30 minutes. You also get lore and experience for that, which I think has maybe pushed us a little bit higher because we've completed that twice now. We journeyed to Rohan, and now we're traveling back to Gondor. Our idea is to sort of help out both sides as evenly as we can and see where it takes us in the story.
So I mean, I love this game. There's no secret. I enjoy the way that the game is played. You're basically leveling up our characters. We're making decisions about what we face, how we're facing them, where we're going, and this is not you're not rolling dice, but you're turning cards to see if you get successes or not. So I've really enjoyed it. I like everything about it, and I like that we're in Rohan and Gondor. That's interesting too. It would be nice. I might want to go back, at some point and try it with Aragon, see how that works out.
Take him and Boromir into Gondor, see if anyone notices him beforehand.
Yeah.
So why don't you talk a little bit about the two characters that you're playing? You've got Dwalin.
I've got Dwalin, who's a dwarf, who's not the tank of a dwarf, but he's pretty well balanced. Actually, he's got some. What I liked about it is his stats are all very balanced. So nothing really is deficient except for maybe might. But I really can get around that most of the time.
Yeah, and he's the lore keeper class. So why don't you let us? How do you enjoying that? Does he play differently than some of the other classes you've played?
Oh, well, I mean, there's a little bit of a disadvantage to having the lore card because there's not much that you're getting from it. But one of the things that they've changed is that you get more successes. You have the option of getting more successes in your cards earlier on, because when you get to that big lore keeper card, it's taken out of the deck basically, and it's just automatically tabulated. So I mean, I enjoy some of his cards. There's a card called Ancestral Grudge that basically lets you annihilate. Boy, that was a hard word for me to get out. Orcs. And that was pretty useful fairly early on in the campaign, and basically I got rid of a bunch of orcs.
Yes, not as useful now as we are in the city of the Crosshairs, or Corsairs, if you want to pronounce it properly, and we're surrounded by men. Yeah. And what about your shield maiden of Rohan?
She's fun. She is a lot more aid than I thought she was going to. I thought she would be my fighting character, but
she still hits hard.
She hits, but she's more about coming to the aid of everybody. She's the person that helps everything out, and she's willing to put herself out there for others. So they've been fun to play. They're not necessarily the same characters that I would normally play. They play very differently, but they've been a good mix, and they've been fun to play.
So the one thing that I do not like about all of our characters, and I'll talk about the two that I'm playing right now, is we really don't have much guard or healing so far. Now, one of us could have been Calaman Took, the Hobbit character, who did seem to have a lot of the healing cards, and I forget what the other class is. We're only playing 4 out of the 6 characters that currently were included in the box. So I'm playing Beorn, who is the guide, and I really like his class. He's got a lot of cool cards that let you help other players, as well as have some very strong hard-hitting abilities. He's by far the tank more than anyone else, but I am very much disappointed in his great bear form. So he is a Bjorning, so he can transform from his man form into the bear, but right now, as where we've gotten so far, besides the one time where we faced off with the Oliphant, there's been no good reason for me to become the bear. The bear can do a lot of single target damage, and I picked the Eredluin Battle Axe, which lets me cleave stuff. So I'd much rather be cleaving the large groups of enemies instead of trying to just stack damage. It really is a lot easier to get 3 hits when I need to get like 4 or 5 hits to do a massive amount of damage with a bear. With Cleave, I can take out 3 characters with 2 hits. So that's just a little bit of disappointment, but overall the guide class is a lot of fun. Then I'm playing Renarian, who is the elf trickster, and that class is a lot of fun. Now, first time I'm playing an elf that isn't very wise, but there's a lot of really cool things that she can do. She's got the sprint cards, able to move around the map. She has cards that let me spend inspiration to give other players actions. One inspiration to let someone else do another action is incredibly powerful. So overall, I'm really enjoying it. It's just I'm finding that right now at least our last campaign, our last mission, we took a fair bit of damage, and I'm like, man, there's a good chance we might be doing some last stands because we have not that much healing whatsoever. So the other thing that I wanted to discuss, which is the new part of the game that we've seen so far, we haven't yet seen the siege towers or the fell beasts from the Nazgul, but we do have mounts. And what do you think of the mounts?
Well, one of the mount that Freyhel has is one that allows me to interact from a space away with stuff. So that's been really useful because it's allowed me not to necessarily go into dark spaces and things like that. So it's been very useful.
Yeah, it also lets you treat characters that are multiple spaces away as nearby, which is really cool. She also has her own special mount, Snowbright, but I find because of who you are playing and you've got that horse, she's just better than Snowbright. I've got the War Charger, who's very cool. Lets me add Sunder and Stun to any attack, which has been incredibly useful to have Stun when I'm using a Battle Axe. And then the Pack Mule for Renarian is really cool because I can prepare extra skills, and she's got the ability to take other cards and prepare them, potentially even discarding skills and putting them at the top of the deck. I keep forgetting to do that because I have a great card that's a success and has one of the fate symbols. So I'm like, man, it's also sprint card. So I'm like, man, I'd be discarding it, I could put it to the top of my deck. I really gotta use that ability more because it make her even more powerful than she already is. So the mounts are a really neat addition. We also have some level 4 weapons and new items that were added. Haven't quite got there yet, so we can't quite comment on them. The only thing I would say that I'm a little bit disappointed about with regards to level 4 weapons is you don't seem to have enough of them for your characters. So for example, you've got characters that use swords. I think we only got one level 4 sword, so it would have been nicer to have a few more of those. Now, Fantasy Flight Games is supposed to be putting out maybe some more small box expansions, so hopefully they use that as a way to get some more of these level 4 higher damage weapons, well, higher lore and damage weapons out into the game so that you can, have all your guys with swords out if you want to play 5 characters that, in all reality, should be using those. But I don't really have much more to add to the game in terms of negatives. I think this experience has been really good. I think this is so far my favorite campaign. It feels the most well balanced out of all of it, and it's really going in onto the adventure aspect. So while the previous expansions had a heavy combat element, which is fun, after playing Descent Legends in the Dark, I think I prefer combat in Descent more than combat in Lord of the Rings. So having something that has a nice level of combat as well as this cool exploration element is really hitting, the sweet spot for me. So anything else you want to add, Julie? Anything you think that I missed? Oh, wait, we didn't talk about the new fortified rule and some new tokens. So you do have spaces that can become fortified, which is pretty cool because if you're there, enemies can't necessarily enter, which is cool. Or you have to defeat enemies to leave, so it does make the game just a little bit more challenging. So on that note, Julie, what is your score for this expansion?
It's an 8.
It's an 8? I thought you might go higher than that.
No, it's an 8.
Okay, well, I'm going to agree with you. I think the expansion is an 8. I do feel like this expansion actually had the potential to go higher. I do feel, however, that some of the things that are just a little bit deficient, such as Bjorn not being able to have cleave with his bear. I mean, bear claw, cleave, it just kind of makes sense to me. Also, I think that Freyhild and Boromir's special abilities do seem rather weak. I mean, we're coming off of the last expansion. Oh, sorry, not the small box, the last big box expansion where we had some really powerful characters. While everyone here is fun, I think that Dwana's Lore Keeper actually keeps pace. And Renarian is fairly strong too. I'm not sure if the quality of your characters are as good as what you had because Arwen was ridiculous. And Gandalf was ridiculous. I think every character in the Shadowed Pass expansion was really powerful. And I don't think that's the case with Spreading War. But I don't think the campaign needs it, so I think it's been a nice balance. I feel like if we were playing some of those other characters, we might just tear through it. Arwen would probably just be like cutting everyone up.
Yeah, probably.
She's still my favorite, which is surprising. She's a healer, but does way too much damage.
So on that note, it's time to remind you to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell to be notified when we have some new content for you.
And take a look down below in the video description. You'll find links to all of our social media feeds. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you'd like to see pictures of Julie and I playing The Lord of the Rings, Journeys in Middle-earth, Spreading War, there'll be plenty on all our feeds. There'll be more coming because we're definitely going to be finishing this game up before it leaves the vault of the table. And then you also have a link down there to multizone.ca, a great Canadian game store. Click that link, you'll get 10% off your next purchase. And make sure to take a look and see what they have for Journeys in Middle-earth. They won't have this. We actually had to bring this in from the UK in order to play it now, but we could not. We're going into the holidays, so we wanted to have this for, our holiday playtime. And on that note, we need to
grab our drink.
Grab our best friend and member of the fellowship.
And we're going to keep playing games.
Keep playing games. Definitely going to keep playing this one. I wonder what's next for Journeys in Middle-earth.